My mom said my dad abandoned me when I was 5. At 29, I found a locked box of letters he wrote every year, all stamped, "Return to sender." And her secret finally exploded. I'm 29 now, and for most of my life I've told the same story like it was a fact carved into stone. My dad left. He didn't want us. My mom made sure of it. Whenever I asked, when I was little, when I was a teen, when I was old enough to know better, she'd tighten her mouth like she was biting down on glass and say, "He walked out. Voluntarily. Don't romanticize him." That sentence was a lullaby in our house. If I cried over a Father's Day craft at school, she'd say it again. If I asked why other kids got picked up by dads and I didn't, she'd say it again. If I mentioned his name, like it might summon him, she'd snap, "Don't." So I stopped. I grew up with a cardboard cutout of a villain. A man who chose freedom over me. A man who didn't call, didn't write, didn't care. A man who apparently erased us like pencil marks. And my mom, she was the hero who survived him. She worked double shifts. She packed my lunches. She clapped at my school plays with eyes that always looked tired. She kissed the top of my head and told me we were a team. Just us. It wasn't like she never spoke about him. She spoke about him constantly, but only in one tone. The tone you use for mold in the shower or an expired carton of milk. He's selfish. He's weak. He left you. By the time I turned 17, I didn't even remember his face clearly. I just remembered the shape of the story. Mother good, father gone. Then, last month, my mom got sick. Not dramatic sick. Not movie sick. Just the kind of sick that makes you realize your parent is a human body with a warranty that's about to expire. I flew back to my childhood town to help her organize the house. "Declutter," she said, like it was a fun project. Like we were folding throw blankets, not sorting through our lives. She stayed on the couch with tea while I climbed into the attic. Dust. Heat. The smell of old cardboard. I found baby clothes, school trophies, a cracked snow globe, and then a small metal box tucked behind a stack of tax folders. The kind of box you'd use for important papers. It wasn't labeled. It was locked. And for some reason, my stomach dropped like it recognized it. I shouldn't have. I know that. But I took the box downstairs anyway, balancing it like it might bite me. "Mom," I said, trying to sound casual. "What's this?" She didn't even look at it at first. Then she did. And her face changed so fast it was like a mask slipping. "That's nothing," she said. My fingers tightened. "It's locked." She reached for it too quickly, like snatching a hot pan. "Throw it out." "Why?" I said throw it out. Her voice wasn't tired anymore. It was sharp, commanding. The same voice she used when I was 5 and tried to run into the street. I stared at her. "Mom, what is in here?" Her eyes flashed. And then she said something I hadn't heard in years, not since I was a kid with scraped knees and questions that annoyed her. "Don't make me relive what he did to us." Except she didn't say us. She said me. And that tiny difference hit me like a slap. Because this wasn't about protecting me. This was about protecting a story. I carried the box back to the guest room like it was contraband. That night, while my mom slept, I found a small key taped under the bottom of the box. Like someone wanted it hidden, but not lost. My hands shook when I turned it. The lock clicked open, and the first thing I saw wasn't money or documents. It was a stack of envelopes, all addressed to me, in handwriting I didn't recognize. But the return address made my throat close. My father's name. The envelopes were bundled with a faded ribbon, like someone had tried to make them look harmless. Like a gift. Except every single one had "Return to sender" stamped across the front in angry red ink. Some had corner tears, like they'd been opened and resealed. Some had my name written in big, careful letters. "For my daughter. Please." I sat on the carpet with the box between my knees, staring until my eyes burned. My mom's version of my dad had never written anything. He didn't care enough. But here he was, apparently caring so hard the mail had to scream it back at him. The dates on the postmarks made my chest feel tight. One when I was 6, one when I was 10, one when I was 14, one on my 18th birthday. I picked that one up first. The paper was thicker, like he'd pressed too hard writing it. My hands were sweating when I slid my finger under the flap. Inside was a single letter folded neatly. And at the top, in ink that had bled slightly. "Happy 18th, Ellie. I'm proud of you." I had to swallow before I could read the next line. "I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I've written anyway. I write because you exist." I stopped breathing. He wrote about little things, how he imagined I might be tall like my mom, how he hoped I liked reading, how he kept a photo of me as a toddler in his wallet even after it got bent. Then he wrote something that made my vision blur. "I've tried calling every year. Every number I'm given is disconnected. I tried sending gifts. They get sent back. I tried showing up once, but I was told you didn't want to see me." I stared at that sentence like it might rearrange itself into something less impossible. "I was told you didn't want to see me." My mom's voice echoed in my head, automatic and certain. He left. He didn't try. He didn't care. But the letter kept going. If someday you want to know why I left, the truth is, I didn't. I was pushed out, and then the door was held shut. I don't blame you. I never will. My stomach rolled. I flipped through the other envelopes like I was looking for a hidden camera, like someone was about to jump out and laugh. There were copies of unopened birthday cards. A few crumpled drawings he'd sent back, little stick figure cartoons trying to make me smile. And then, beneath the letters, I found something worse. A manila folder. Inside were photocopies of court paperwork, yellowed at the edges, custody petitions, visitation requests, and stamped across one page in black. Motion denied. I didn't know the legal language, but I understood the vibe. Someone asking to see their child, and someone else winning. I sat there until dawn, reading and rereading like repetition would change the ending. It didn't. When the sun started bleeding into the curtains, I heard my mom move around in the kitchen. The floor creaked. I froze, because suddenly I realized something terrifying. If she hid these, then she didn't just hate him. She was willing to rewrite reality. I slid the letters back into the box and shut it, hands clumsy with panic. At breakfast, my mom stirred her oatmeal like nothing existed. She didn't look at me. I watched her mouth, waiting for the lie to come out by itself. Finally, I said, as calmly as I could, "Did Dad ever write to me?" Her spoon paused, a fraction of a second. Then she continued stirring. No, it wasn't even a complicated lie, just a clean, effortless one. I felt something inside me crack, slow and quiet. I put my coffee down carefully, because my hands were shaking again. "Mom," I said, voice too soft. "Why is there a box in the attic full of letters addressed to me?" Her spoon clinked against the bowl. She lifted her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in them. Not sadness, not resentment, fear. And she said, "You went through my things." Like that was the crime. "What's in the letters?" I asked. My mom's jaw tightened so hard I thought she might crack a tooth. "There are no letters," she said. I almost laughed. It was so absurd, so bold, it made my skin prickle. "Mom, I read them." That did it. Her face went red, and suddenly she was standing, bowl scraping the table as she pushed it away. "You had no right," she snapped. "Those were private. They were addressed to me. They were addressed to you to manipulate you." She fired back, like she'd been waiting years to say it. "That man is poison." My heartbeat was loud in my ears. "He tried to call." "No." "He filed paperwork." "He wanted visitation." "No." "Why are you saying no when I literally have the documents in my hand?" She flinched, and I saw the answer in her reaction before she spoke. Then she did something I didn't expect. She went quiet. Not calm quiet. Tactical quiet. Like she was deciding which story would be safest now that the old one was caught. And when she finally spoke, her voice softened into something almost maternal, almost kind. "He writes letters because it makes him feel better," she said. "It doesn't mean he cared. It means he wanted to feel like the good guy." That would have worked on me once. But not now, because I'd read the ink. I'd felt the paper. There was desperation in those letters, not performance. "What actually happened?" I asked. "Why did you divorce?" My mom's eyes flicked away. "He cheated," she said instantly. The speed of it, like a reflex, made my stomach twist. "He didn't mention that once," I said. "He wouldn't," she replied. "That's what men like him do. They rewrite history." I stared at her, and something felt backwards, because she was accusing him of the exact thing she'd been doing to me. I tried to keep my voice steady. If he cheated, why do these papers show he was asking for custody? Why fight to see me if he didn't care? My mom's mouth opened, closed. Then she did the thing she always did when she was cornered. She became the victim. "You have no idea what it was like," she whispered. I suddenly wet. "I protected you. I held you together. And now you're sitting here interrogating me like I'm the bad guy?" Guilt hit me like a muscle memory. My body started to fold into apology automatically. But then I thought about the red stamps on the envelopes. Return to sender. How many times did my dad write anyway, knowing it might never reach me? And how many times did my mom look at my name on a letter and decide I didn't deserve to read it? I stood up, chair scraping. "I need air," I said, because if I stayed, I was going to scream. Outside, the morning was cold and bright. I walked down the street like I was escaping a fire. A block away, I spotted Mrs. Noland, our old neighbor, watering her plants. She was older now, smaller, but her eyes were still sharp. She looked up and smiled. "Ellie? Honey, is that you?" My throat tightened. "Hi." She wiped her hands on her jeans, studying my face like she was matching me to a memory. "You're all grown up," she said softly. "You look like him." The words punched the breath out of me. "Like who?" I asked, already knowing. She hesitated. "Your dad." I felt my entire spine go cold. Mrs. Nolan's smile faded as if she realized she'd stepped on a landmine. "Oh," she said quietly. You don't know, do you?" I swallowed. No what? She glanced toward my mom's house like it might be listening. Then she leaned closer and said the sentence that shattered the last safe piece of my childhood. Sweetheart, your father didn't leave you. Mrs. Noland invited me onto her porch like she was hiding me from a storm. She handed me a glass of water I didn't drink because my hands were trembling too much. I shouldn't get involved, she said, already involved. I need to know, I replied. She sighed, looking out at her lawn like the grass might give her permission. Your dad used to come by, she said finally. Not all the time, but often enough. He'd sit in his car down the street for a while. My stomach lurched. Why didn't he just come to the door? He did, she said. A few times. I saw it. He'd knock. Your mom would open it just enough to speak, and then she swallowed. Then she'd close it again. My mind tried to reject it. Like a computer refusing corrupted data. That doesn't make sense, I whispered. She said he disappeared. Mrs. Noland's eyes sharpened. Your mom was angry. And I'm not saying she didn't have her reasons, but what? I pressed. But it wasn't like he wanted to vanish, she said. He brought a stuffed animal once. A bunny. He asked if he could just give it to you. A memory flickered in my head. Me at 7 years old, holding a bunny with one ear sewn back on. I'd always assumed my mom bought it at a thrift store. My throat burned. What did she do? I asked, voice cracking. Mrs. Noland looked away. She told him you were asleep. That you didn't want to see him. That he was upsetting you. My vision blurred with rage, so hot it felt like acid. She told him that. I whispered. She told him I didn't want him? Mrs. Noland nodded once, slow and sad. I'm sorry, honey. I stood up too fast, dizzy. There has to be a reason, I said, more to myself than her. There has to be something he did. Something real. Mrs. Noland's face tightened like she was carrying a secret she hated. There was something, she said. My heart pounded. What? She hesitated, then said, it wasn't cheating. I stared at her. It was money, she continued. And sickness. The porch suddenly felt too small. What do you mean? I asked. Mrs. Noland lowered her voice. Your dad's business went under. It wasn't his fault. A partner, someone he trusted, pulled something shady, left him holding the debt. My mind flashed to the paperwork in the box, the legal motions, the denials. And your mom? I asked. She found out he was sick around that time, Mrs. Noland said. I don't know the details. I just know I heard your mom yelling about hospital bills and not being dragged down. My stomach dropped through the floor, dragged down, like my dad was an anchor she cut loose. I stumbled backward off the porch, lungs struggling. I have to go, I said, because if I stayed I might throw up. I walked back to my mom's house with my entire childhood rattling loose inside me. Inside, my mom was in the living room watching TV, volume too loud, like noise could keep the truth away. She looked up when I entered. Where were you? I held onto the doorframe like it was the only stable thing in the universe. I talked to Mrs. Noland, I said. My mom's face changed again, tight, alarmed. She said Dad came here. I continued. She said he begged to see me. My mom's lips pressed into a thin line. She's a gossip. She said you told him I didn't want him. My mom stood up slowly, like a teacher being challenged. You were a child, she said. I did what I had to do. You lied to me my whole life. I protected you. From what? I snapped, voice breaking. From him loving me? Her eyes flashed. From him ruining us. I took a shaky breath. Why did you really divorce him? My mom's chest rose and fell fast. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, very quietly, she said, because he was going to take everything from me. I blinked. What? He was drowning, she hissed. Debt. Doctors. His partner. And he wanted me to go down with him. He wanted help, I said. He wanted rescue, she corrected. And I refused to be collateral damage. My hands curled into fists. So you made me collateral damage. Her eyes went wet again, but this time it wasn't guilt. It was fury. You think you know love? She whispered. You think you understand what he put me through? I watched him crumble. I watched him lie awake shaking. I watched the bills stack up and the phone ring and the world shrink. She stepped closer, and then he looked at me like it was my job to hold the sky up for him. My voice came out small. So you punished him by taking me. My mom's jaw trembled, and then she said something that made my skin go cold. I didn't take you from him. I saved you from becoming him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling, remembering every time my mom had repeated her script. He left. He didn't care. He chose himself. Those weren't just words. They were the foundation of my reality. And now someone had kicked the supports out from under it. At 2:13 a.m., I crept back downstairs and opened the metal box again like it was a crime scene. I reread the letters in order. 6 years old. I miss your laugh. 10 years old. I keep thinking I'll see you at the grocery store. 14. I'm not giving up. 18. If you ever want to find me, I'll be here. On the bottom of the stack was an envelope I hadn't noticed before. No stamp, no postmark, just my name in the same handwriting. And beneath it, 2 words: in case. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a folded photograph. The paper was a list of phone numbers, addresses, emails. Like he'd been updating his contact info for years, hoping one day I'd come looking. My chest tightened around something that felt like grief and rage having a child. Then I opened the photograph. It was me. Or a version of me I'd never seen. I was maybe 5, sitting on someone's shoulders at a fair, cotton candy in my hand, my hair in messy pigtails. I was laughing so hard my eyes were squeezed shut. And I knew instantly I'd never seen this photo because my mom would have destroyed it. I turned it over. On the back, in the same ink: "You were fearless. I hope you still are." I pressed the photo to my chest like it could stitch something back together. In the morning, I made a decision without telling my mom. I was going to find him. Not to forgive him. Not to accuse him. Just to look him in the face and see if he was real. The address on the in case list was only 2 hours away. I borrowed my mom's car under the excuse of getting groceries and drove out of town with my heart hammering. The whole way, the little girl inside me argued with the adult. "He left." "No, he didn't. He's a stranger. He's your father. If he wanted you, he would have fought harder." "He did fight." I pulled into a quiet apartment complex with peeling paint and a dead-looking shrub by the stairs. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I almost left. Then I remembered my mom saying, "Throw it out." And I realized she wasn't scared of him. She was scared of me meeting him and seeing something she couldn't control. So I walked up the stairs and knocked. The door opened slowly. A man stood there, older than any memory I had, thinner than I expected, with tired eyes that looked like they'd been holding something heavy for decades. He stared at me. I stared at him. And then his mouth opened like he couldn't quite form the word. "Ellie," he whispered. My throat closed. "How do you?" I started. His eyes went wet instantly. "I dreamed about this. A stupid amount." I didn't move. I couldn't. He reached out slowly, like I was a scared animal. Then he stopped himself, hands dropping. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. I don't want to scare you." He stepped back. "Do you want to come in?" I walked inside like I was crossing into an alternate timeline. His apartment was small but clean. A worn couch. A bookshelf full of old paperbacks. A framed photo on the wall turned face down, like he couldn't stand looking at it. My dad, my father, stood awkwardly by the kitchen counter, blinking fast. "I thought you hated me," I said, and the sentence came out raw, like a confession. His face crumpled. "I thought you hated me too." We stared at each other, trapped in the same lie from opposite sides. Then he said quietly, Did you find the letters?" I nodded. His shoulders sagged, like a dam finally breaking. "She never gave them to you," he whispered, not even surprised, just devastated. I swallowed hard. "Why didn't you ever stop?" He looked at me like the question didn't make sense. "Because you were my kid," he said simply. "You don't stop loving your kid." And for the first time, I realized something worse than being abandoned. I realized I'd been kept. We sat at his small kitchen table, 2 strangers with matching cheekbones and a lifetime of missing context. He kept staring at me like he was afraid I'd vanish if he blinked too long. I pulled the photo from my pocket and slid it across the table. His hand froze above it. Then he touched it like it was sacred. "I didn't know you had that," he whispered. "I didn't," I said. "Until last night." His jaw tightened. "She kept everything." There was no triumph in his voice, only exhaustion. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but the one that clawed up first was the ugliest. "Were you sick?" I asked. His eyes flicked away. A pause. Then he nodded once. "Yeah." My stomach dropped. "What kind?" He hesitated, then said, "Not the dramatic kind. Not the kind that kills you fast." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "The kind that bankrupts you slowly." He explained it in pieces. Chronic illness, treatments, insurance that didn't cover enough. A partner who cooked the books and vanished right when everything imploded. "I wasn't cheating," he said, like he'd had to defend himself for years. "I wasn't running around. I was drowning, and I didn't hide it well." I stared at the tabletop, fists clenched. "She told me you cheated." He closed his eyes briefly, like the lie still hurt physically. "Of course she did." Then he added something that made my skin prickle. "I tried to tell her I'd sign whatever she wanted. I'd take nothing. I just wanted time with you." My throat tightened. "And she said no." "She said," he corrected softly, "that you cried when you saw my name. That you were afraid of me." I sucked in a breath so sharp it hurt. "I was 5, I whispered. "I didn't even know you." He nodded, eyes shining. "I know." Silence fell heavy. Then he stood abruptly. "Hold on." He disappeared down a short hallway. I heard a closet door open, cardboard shifting. When he came back, he was carrying a shoebox, worn at the corners, held with both hands. He set it in front of me and didn't open it. His voice broke. I kept this. I know it's pathetic. My fingers hovered above the lid. What is it? I asked, already scared. He swallowed. Open it. I lifted the lid, and my breath left my body. Inside were my childhood drawings. Not one or two. Dozens. Crayon stick figures. A sun in the corner. A house with a crooked door. A dog that looked like a potato. My handwriting, shaky and round. Dad plus me. I love you. Come home. My vision blurred so fast I couldn't even fight it. I dug through the pile with trembling hands and found one I remembered making in kindergarten. A drawing of a man with big arms holding a little girl. The teacher had asked us to draw someone who keeps you safe. I had drawn him, even though I barely knew him. And he had it. He had kept it. How did you get these? I choked out. He gave a broken smile. Mrs. Noland. She found some in your trash once. Your mom had thrown them out. She saved them. She brought them to me. My chest felt like it was splitting in half. My dad watched me like he was bracing for me to hate him anyway. I didn't want to be a ghost, he whispered. But that's what I became. I couldn't speak. All I could think was, my mom didn't just block communication. She erased evidence. She threw away the parts of me that reached for him. And he still kept them. I pressed the drawings to my chest like they were the only proof I existed. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. Where are you? Then another. Ellie, answer me now. Then, if you're with him, you're making a huge mistake. My father saw my face change. He didn't ask to see the screen. He just said softly, she knows. And the way he said it, like a weather forecast, made me realize this wasn't going to end with one conversation. This was about to become a war over my reality. I drove back to my mom's house with the shoebox of drawings on the passenger seat, like it was fragile glass. My hands were numb on the steering wheel. I wasn't even sure what I was going home to do. Yell? Cry? Demand answers? All I knew was, I couldn't unsee the truth. When I walked inside, my mom was standing in the living room like she'd been waiting for a courtroom verdict. You went to him, she said flatly. I didn't deny it. Yes. Her nostrils flared. After everything I did for you. I found the letters, I said, voice shaking. You lied to me. She crossed her arms. I told you what you needed to hear. I held up the shoebox. Do you know what this is? Her eyes flicked to it. For a second, just one, something like panic flashed. Then she hardened again. Old scribbles. Those are my drawings, I snapped. And you threw them away. Her mouth tightened. I threw away garbage. Something inside me snapped at that word. Garbage. The things 5-year-old me made with love were garbage because they involved him. I stepped closer. Why did you send his letters back? Why did you tell him I didn't want him? Her eyes flashed. Because he didn't deserve you. He deserved the truth. I shot back. I deserved the truth. My mom's face twisted, and suddenly her voice went sharp again, that old familiar weapon. He would have ruined you. How? I yelled. By loving me? She flinched like I'd slapped her, but she didn't back down. By making you watch him fall apart, she hissed. By dragging you into his sickness, his debt, his chaos. You would have grown up scared and unstable and poor. I shook my head, tears spilling. Mom, I grew up scared anyway, just of different things. Her mouth opened, then closed, like she didn't understand. I took a shaky breath. Do you know what it's like to build your entire identity on my dad didn't want me? My mom's eyes narrowed. Don't be dramatic. I'm not. I cried. That story shaped everything. Who I trusted, who I didn't, how I loved, how I expected to be left. I wiped my face angrily. You didn't just hate him. You trained me to hate him. Her eyes went glassy, and for a moment, just a moment, her mask slipped again. She looked tired. Not tired like work tired. Tired like someone who's been holding a lie upright for decades and suddenly can't hold it anymore. She sat down slowly on the couch. I didn't plan it like this, she said, voice softer. At first, I just needed space. Space from what? I demanded. From being blamed, she whispered. From being the wife who stayed while everything collapsed. I stared at her. Then she said it. Finally, like she'd been saving it as her last defense. He chose that partner over me. Over us. My stomach turned. That doesn't even make sense. It does if you lived it, she snapped. He kept saying, it'll be fine. I can fix it. Just trust me. And every week, we sank deeper. She looked up at me, eyes wet. I felt like I was trapped in his slow-motion disaster. I swallowed, voice small. So you escaped, by trapping me. Her face crumpled, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she whispered, you were all I had left. That should have made me feel loved. It didn't. It made me feel used. Because suddenly I saw it. My mom didn't just raise me as her daughter. She raised me as her proof she was right. And now my proof was walking around with a shoebox of drawings my father saved like holy relics. My mom stared at the box and said, almost to herself, if you forgive him, then what was all of this for? And that's when I realized the stakes weren't just emotional. They were existential. Because if my mom was wrong, then her whole life story collapses. And if she collapses, what happens to me? That night, I didn't sleep in my childhood room. I slept on the couch, shoes on, phone clutched in my hand like I was on standby for disaster. At 3 a.m., I heard my mom moving around in the kitchen. Quiet footsteps. Cabinet doors opening. I sat up, heart pounding. "Mom." I called softly. No answer. I walked in and found her standing at the counter holding something. A lighter. And next to it, the metal box. My stomach dropped. "Mom, what are you doing?" She turned slowly, eyes wide and shiny like she wasn't fully there. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't have him poisoning you." My whole body went cold. "Put it down." She shook her head, trembling. "You don't understand. If you read those, you'll turn on me." "I already read them," I said, voice tight. "And I'm not turning on you. I'm asking you to stop." She lifted the lighter. I moved fast, grabbed the box, yanked it away, nearly knocked over the sugar jar. The lighter clattered onto the floor. My mom stared at me like I'd just robbed her. "You're choosing him," she said, voice breaking. "I'm choosing the truth," I snapped. For once. She sank into a chair and started crying. Not pretty crying. Sharp, wounded, furious crying. "He was supposed to be gone," she choked. "He was supposed to stay gone." And there it was again. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I was wrong." Just the desperate insistence that the world should obey her version of it. I held the box to my chest like a shield. My mom wiped her face roughly and whispered, "You have no idea what he did to me." I swallowed hard. "Then tell me." She stared at the table for a long time. Then she said quietly, "He didn't cheat." My stomach twisted. "I know." She flinched at the word no. Then she said, "I did." The room tilted. "What?" I whispered. Her eyes squeezed shut. "Once. When things were falling apart. When he was sick and angry and broke and distant, and I felt invisible. I couldn't breathe. I told myself it didn't count," she whispered, voice shaking. "Because I was lonely. Because I was scared. Because I was trapped." My hands went numb. "And then," she continued, "he found out." I swallowed hard. "What did he do?" My mom looked up at me, eyes raw. "He forgave me," she whispered. The words landed like a punch. "He said he understood," she said, voice cracking. "He said he wasn't there for me the way he should have been. And he still wanted us to stay together." My throat burned. "Then why?" I started. "Because I couldn't stand it," she snapped suddenly, anger flaring. "I couldn't stand being the villain in his story." She laughed, sharp and broken. "So I made him the villain in mine." Silence swallowed us whole. I realized the betrayal in my parents' divorce wasn't his. It was hers. And she'd spent my entire life hiding it behind my face. Behind my childhood. Behind a rewritten man. I stood there shaking. "You let me hate him," I whispered, voice cracking. "To cover your guilt." My mom's face crumpled. "I didn't mean for it to last. At first it was just easier. And then you got older, and you looked at me like I was the only safe thing, and I couldn't risk losing that." I stared at her, and my brain tried to piece together the new world. My mother. The person who loved me, raised me, held me when I had nightmares. Also the person who stole my father's voice from me. Also the person who decided my love belonged exclusively to her. I backed away, clutching the box. "I don't know who you are," I whispered. My mom sobbed. "I'm your mother." And that was the worst part. Because she was. The next morning, I met my dad again. This time in a public place, a small diner with sticky tables and burnt coffee. I didn't want my mom knowing where I was, but I also didn't trust myself to sit alone with him in his apartment without falling apart. He walked in and spotted me immediately, like his eyes had been trained for years to find me in crowds. He sat down carefully, like he didn't want to scare me off. "I'm sorry," I blurted before he could speak. "I'm sorry I believed it." His face tightened, and he shook his head. "No, don't do that. You were a kid." I swallowed. "She told me you cheated." His jaw clenched. "I know. And you didn't fight that?" I asked, voice shaking. "You didn't tell people?" He let out a slow breath. "Ellie, I was trying to survive. I was sick, broke, humiliated. And every time I tried to talk, it got uglier." He looked down at his hands. "And your mom, she's smart. She knew if she made me the villain, no one would look too closely at anything else." I nodded, throat burning. "She admitted something," I said quietly. His eyes lifted. "What?" I hesitated, then said, "She said she cheated." My dad's face went still. Not shocked, just tired. Like he'd been carrying that truth for years, and hearing it out loud didn't change its weight. "I knew," he said softly. I stared at him. "You knew and you still." "I forgave her," he finished quietly. "I wanted to keep our family together." My chest tightened. "And she still destroyed you." He swallowed. "She destroyed the story." He reached into his bag and pulled out another envelope. "This is the last letter I ever wrote you," he said. "The one I stopped myself from mailing." My hands shook as I took it. Inside was a single page, folded once. "Ellie, I think your mom will win. Not because she's right, but because she's louder. But if you ever find me, if you ever want me, I will be here. I will not punish you for the lies you were fed." I started crying right there in the diner, shoulders shaking. He didn't touch me. He just sat there and let me fall apart, like he understood this wasn't about him comforting me. It was about me mourning the kid I used to be. The kid who thought the world was simple. Good people, bad people, heroes, villains. Now it was just people. Messy, scared people with sharp edges. I wiped my face and asked the question that scared me most. "Why did you keep the drawings?" I whispered. His eyes softened. "Because they were proof you existed," he said. "Proof I wasn't crazy for missing you." I pressed my lips together, trying to breathe. "And because," he added, voice cracking, "I wanted to remember the version of you that still reached for me." That sentence gutted me, because it meant there was a version of me, somewhere in the past, who loved him without being told not to. And I lost her. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from my mom. "If you walk away from me for him, don't bother coming back." I stared at it until the words blurred. My dad didn't look at the screen. He just watched my face, like he already knew. "You don't have to choose," he said softly. But that was the lie adults tell. Because sometimes you do. Even if the choice is just who you let shape your story from now on. I didn't respond to my mom's text. I didn't respond to my dad either, not with the kind of answer he deserved. Because the truth is, I don't know what to do with this. I went back to my mom's house that evening to pack my suitcase. She sat on the couch, arms folded, face swollen from crying, staring straight ahead like a statue. She didn't look at me. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't explode. "I'm going home," I said finally, voice small. She swallowed hard. "With him?" "No," I whispered. "Alone." That made her flinch, like being left alone was the real punishment. I stood by the front door with the shoebox tucked under my arm. My mom's voice cracked. "I did everything for you." I believed her. That was the tragedy, because she did do everything. She also did this. "I know," I said, tears filling again. "And I hate that I know." I left. On the drive back to the airport, I kept seeing flashes of my childhood like a film reel. Me coloring at the kitchen table while my mom muttered, "He left." Me blowing out candles while an empty chair stayed empty. Me making Father's Day cards I never gave anyone. Me learning, slowly, that love was something people could withdraw. I used to think the world was fair, that parents were supposed to be safe, that adults told the truth. Now I know something uglier. Adults are just children who got bigger and learned how to justify their pain. My dad still has my drawings. My mom still has her resentment. And I'm stuck holding both like broken glass. I don't know who to blame. Because blaming my mother feels like betraying the woman who raised me. And forgiving my father feels like betraying the little girl who cried herself to sleep believing she wasn't worth staying for. So I do the only thing I can do right now. I keep the shoebox. I keep the letters. I keep the truth. Messy, incomplete, uncomfortable. And I try to rebuild a world where love isn't a weapon. Where a child doesn't have to lose her sense of reality just to keep an adult comfortable. Some nights, I open the box and look at one drawing in particular. A crooked house. A sun in the corner. A stick figure dad holding a stick figure me. And I realize the worst part isn't that my father wasn't there. It's that I used to believe the world made sense. And now, I'm learning it never did.